This to record over there. Now recording, and we're good to go. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Sonic Talk. This is actually not 328, 329. I missed it because I added one to last week and because I was one behind. So it is actually episode 329, recording today live on 11th of September 2013. Welcome everybody. Sorry for the delay. I had a hardware failure in the office which I managed to fix on the fly, which is just, one of those things when it's a one-man show. But I want to say hello and welcome. Welcome everybody. We're going to try see if this works because we've got a new guest. Well, not a new guest, but the same guest in the form of Dave Robinson. There he is, editor of Pro Sound News. I think I might even look. I even got a lower third for you. ProSoundNewsEurope.com. We tried last week, but it had to be aborted because Dave's network just wasn't up to it. Dave, of course. Is the editor of the August volume Pro Sound News Europe, which is B2B, live sound, reinforcement, kind of show, entertainment, technology, live broadcast, that kind of stuff. Would that be fair to say?
Studios, post-production, bit of everything.
The whole gamut.
The whole gamut.
How are you then, Dave? We'll give you a bit of free airtime, seeing as we haven't had you on for such a long time.
I'm very good, thank you. Yes, it's nice to be here for a short while. I'm going to we're busily getting ready for our first awards show next week at the Ministry of Sound, the Pro Sound Awards, when we will be honouring talented individuals.
Are we going to win one?
Yeah, there isn't a category for Sonic Stage, I'm afraid.
For most aborted technical production in a live web stream. Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah,
most untogether.
But so I'll be recognising recordings and live sound and all that kind of stuff. So we're busily getting ready for that, and that's what day is it? It's Wednesday, so it's a week tomorrow. So that's kind of our main.
Oh, are you going to be comparing?
I am presenting one award actually. Yes, no, we've got a comedian comparing, but
that must have been tough. Yeah. Must have been tough for you because you're actually a very good presenter.
That's very kind.
In the tradition of the Music Messer in years gone by, there was always a legendary pop quiz, music quiz at I forget the name of the bar.
Anne
Shabin in just at the outskirts of Sachsenhausen, which was always a good launch pad for hours of drinking. And Dave used to compare. And in fact, I think the Sonic State team actually won one year.
Yes, you did. Yeah, you got mentioned a couple of times. And what particular question as well?
Oh, really? Oh, yes, of course.
Yes,
yeah.
You know the one.
Dave likes to embarrass his guests as much as possible. And I was, in fact, embarrassed. So, Dave, now you're on live streaming. I've got a list of things just to pay back. No, I haven't. Of course I haven't. Anyway, Dave, thanks for joining us this week. Very much appreciated. And we've also got Mr. Gaz Williams, who we haven't seen for a little while. Gaz Williams over there. I don't know if that doesn't look like a familiar background. I'm guessing North Wales.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I can tell by the light.
I'm in North Wales at the moment. I'm up visiting my parents. My father's really ill, so I'm up here.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope I hope you can bring him some solace and what have you. Looks like, Gaz, you've had a fairly serious haircut there.
No, I've just got caught in the rain earlier.
Rain-related head.
But I'm going to be hooking up with Rich Hilton on Sunday. He's playing at a music festival up in North Wales, which is called Festival Number 6. And that's in Portmeirion, which is famous for the setting of The Prisoner. Great. For me, The Prisoner is the greatest TV show of all time.
Ever made.
I think so.
Have you been to the festival before, Gaz?
No. We were going to go last year, sort of as actually Sonic's State.
Oh, right.
We would go with we were going to go to do some interviews on behalf of a certain American magazine who asked us
Oh
to do
yes,
it.
that's right. And
Do you remember?
Yeah,
We
that's
said,
right.
yeah, we'd love to do it.
And then it just kind of didn't happen. I can't remember. There was some issue. I forget what it was. It just all fell to pieces at the end.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that because it's a fantastic place. What a great place to have a music festival! I think it's.
Awesome.
I saw.
I was wondering.
Right, I was going to say that it said it was the only other festival, aside from Glastonbury, it was the other must-go-to festival in this country.
Oh, cool.
So, and I think it's only been around. It was only the first time last year, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, this is the second one this year.
I was that's some big names, didn't they? New Order and stuff, wasn't it? Or not New Order.
New Order played last year.
Yeah, New Order.
There's a really good there's a really good lineup this year as well. It's
going to be wet.
Wet. It's North Wales. What do you expect?
I expect rain.
But I was wondering if some of our American friends could help me out here. Is The Prisoner? Do people know it outside of Britain?
I think so. It was an American, wasn't it? Yeah, it must be legendary.
It got remade a couple of years ago for the American audience.
Oh.
In a slightly abortive TV drama with now somebody like Ian McKellen.
McKellen, yeah.
They couldn't get McEwan, so they went McKellen, who's the next best Muck.
Yeah.
The next best Ian Muck. They're nearly there.
But I'm not. It was only in 4 episodes, and it had the waistcoats and the sort of yeah.
Okay.
But anyway,
well.
I'm just looking at the list. My Bloody Valentine are playing. That's going to on the Saturday.
That'll be bloody good.
Now, I've got to be honest. I saw My Bloody Valentine in Fuji Rock Festival this year, and the Fuji Rock Festival, the main stage there, has just got the best sound system I've ever heard in an outside festival show. And My Bloody Valentine just sounded blooming awful.
Excellent. Well, Gaz, I want to say, of course, Gaz is professional bass player. Has the Carl Hyde project sort of come to an end now, or is it just a hiatus?
We'll see. I mean, the current tour has come to an end, but yeah, we'll see what happens in the future.
Well, anyway, thanks for joining us, and we mustn't forget our final guest, who has moved. He's relocated into a sort of cave somewhere in the West Country. No, Mark Tinley there in Glastonbury, in a new place. Yeah. You had an interesting tweet the other day, which just basically said, right, we put everything in a van. I've just driven here, and we found a house, and it just all sounded very exciting.
Yeah, it was all very exciting, especially as allegedly there was this man driving down the M4 with his foot in a plaster cast using hand controls, towing a 1-ton trailer full of stuff.
Good Lord, I can't imagine who that might have been. Anyway, Mark, how are you? So you're looking well on it. It's a very interesting ambient light you've got there. Your camera's beginning to approach, but yes, you look well.
I've wiggled the settings on the camera to try and improve it. I've been in Glastonbury High Street. I bought a poem from a man on Glastonbury High Street. It's all tied up with a lovely piece of wool. It's about rainbows and everything. And he said, your life will change for the better from the moment you buy my poem. So I am now a better man.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I'm also glad to be part of it somehow. However insignificant a part, it still feels just somehow... I feel on. Anyway, that's our guest for this week. Thank you very much. Right, so let's have a look. Our first topic. Oh, yes, of course. But don't forget, this is sponsored by Iotope. You will be hearing the winner. There is a winner from a chat room favourite winner, I think, it'd be fair to say, of the RX2 and /RX3 upgrade. More on that later. So, first topic. Now, this is one that Dave Robinson threw in last week, and as I've been looking into it, I just cannot believe some of the information that goes out. So here we go. I'll see if this plays. No bags and bags. If you can recognise who this is. This is well, of course, it is. In fact, I'm having to talk over it because of the the rights issue. This is Sir Clif Richard and the Shadows. In his heyday, well, not his heyday, perhaps his first couple of singles. I don't know when this was actually released. It was the only one I could find of Clif Richard not looking really dodgy 80s in a sort of gold lame pair of pantaloons or something. But this is the news, basically, that Clif Richard is actually announcing his 100th album, which is just amazing when you consider what it takes. I mean, he's not an electronic dance music producer, so we're not talking about Oh, look, there he is. I don't know what happened there. I seem to have lost him. But 100 albums. I don't know what the what his exact plans are, but basically, he's done so much work over such a long period of time. He holds an enormous number of records for, you know, the amount. I've got a few lists here. What we got? He basically. He's born in 1940. He sold. No, here we go. Born in 1940. He sold over 21 million units in the UK. 250 million records worldwide. Spanned a career of 50 years. He's the only other person with Elvis Presley to make UK singles charts in all of the first 6 decades of of 1950, 60, 70, 80, 90, 2000. Also, only person ever to have 5 consecutive decades with a #1 single in them. And it's just, I mean, you know, his music is very light and perhaps not something that all of us would appreciate, but that is a heck of an achievement, don't you think, Dave? And as you brought this up, I'm going to go straight to you because I'm guessing you are actually a Clif Richard apologist.
You think so? Well, the only I can remember hearing Carrie and Carrie doesn't live here anymore, which is when was that? The 70s, the 80s?
Early 80s,
yeah. And I think Devil Woman, that was a huge hit. In fact, it might have been his biggest hit in the States or something.
Yeah, he didn't really crack America in the same way.
No, but he's the he did sing Wired for Sound. And, you know, the first line is, I like tall speakers, I like small speakers. As long as there's music, I'm wired for sound.
In fact, didn't the video famously was one of the early uses of the Sony Walkman? Some roller skating going on.
Indeed. I mean, it is a song about the Sony Walkman. It's an homage to Sony Walkman, really. But I do like the anybody who starts a song that
I like tall speakers.
I like specifically talking about Pro Audio equipment. You know, he gets my vote.
So are you trying to tell me this is the Pro Sound News Europe anthem?
If there could be an anthem.
When you have the meeting and they're getting all the management all up and ready, they play Clif Richard Wired for Sound to get you all going. Now you're all going, yeah, come on, let's sell some copies. Yeah.
I think that's a very good. I'm going to put it to the board. In fact. See,
but
I was just looking. You know, I was just looking at his back catalogue, and in 1968, he did an album called "Established 1958," as if 10 years later
was a long time.
He was celebrating the fact he'd been around for 10 years, and that was a year before I was born.
Wow. Well, yeah, stuff happened before you were born.
Well,
I
know, not much.
There was like Beethoven, Bach, you know, a couple of other, you know, famous composers and what have you. But yeah, I take your point. Right. It's an amazing achievement, though. I mean, you know, he's the sort of classic kind of vocalist. He's not. I mean, he has written a few songs, obviously, because he's got he's won a couple of Ivor Novello awards as well.
Yeah,
which is.
I think what you got to remember is that, I mean, back in the day. So I'm just looking back here. So in the 1960s, 1967, he did 3 albums. 1968, he did 3 albums.
Jesus.
So an album was 30 minutes, maybe 35 minutes, if that. In fact, what are we talking about? We're talking about the 1960s. So yeah, there would be LPs, but they would be
short ones.
You only had to record 6 or 7 songs, whereas now an album is 12 songs, and you'd expect an hour's worth of music. So it was a lot easier to churn out. I've got to be careful what I'm saying here, but
no, I mean, but the pop machine was very different then, wasn't it? It was like you go into the studio.
There was an album here from 1962 called 32 minutes and 17 seconds. I wonder how long that album was.
I can't imagine. Are you liking? Look, for those of you watching the live video stream, I'm sort of casually scrolling an enormous wall of Google images of Clif Richard.
What is shirt missing there? Oh.
No, I don't think you want to focus. Oh yeah, look at that, Clif Richard. This one especially. He's on a jet ski.
Nice.
I think there, but I think the problem was his he became synonymous with kind of this very light style of music, and he unfortunately was around at the time when people were getting a little bit uppity about that kind of thing and wanted a bit more tude from their stuff. So he got kind of unfairly, probably just sort of, you know, tarred with the person that stands for all of the stuff we don't like in music, which is kind of, you know, a bit unfortunate. But then he did this rather awful performance where he kind of like put himself up as the Messiah and did the kind of Jesus in the cross thing. And it was like, hold on a minute, this sounds a little... I know he's a Christian and maybe it wasn't meant that way, but it came across very badly.
Is that Michael Jackson you were talking about?
Well, a very similar, actually, concept to Michael Jackson's thing. I don't know. Gaz, have you got anything? Have you got any fond memories of Clif? I mean, 100 albums. I mean, I can't imagine what that would be like.
Well, I have got a soft spot for Clif, actually, and I mean, especially that late 70s, early 80s period. I mean, I was quite a young chap when all those songs like "Wired for Sound" were coming out. I used to dance to them down the disco and stuff. So,
with your roller skates.
Yeah, roller skating.
He had all those moves, didn't he?
Yeah. I don't know. I think he's all right. He's harmless, and Clif. But the Shadows, on the other hand, wow.
Yeah.
You know, I've become quite a bit of a Shadows fan.
Yeah, well, your band, the Rumbelows, probably covers them. Not the yes, they probably cover the Rumbelows. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. We do a little bit of Shadows. Yeah, and it's kind of really just going back and checking out the Shadows. They've done so much cool stuff. So, you know, I think people kind of think of Shadows and Clif Richard and all being a bit rubbish. But then again, you know, if you look at a lot of interviews with classic rock stars, Clif really features in a lot of their kind of formative years, doesn't he? I mean, you know, I know he's got this sort of goodly good
hasn't he just, yeah.
image. But
I mean, he still looks like he's only 35.
But, you know,
he's probably actually sold his soul to the devil. Or he has this kind of Faustian
pact, do you think?
Dorian Gray thing going on where he manages to stay.
Do you think he's got a picture somewhere which is just like a kind of walnut?
A picture of Hank Marvin.
Mark, save us before we start getting into Cockney rhyming slang.
He was #1 on the day I was born, if that's useful.
Awesome.
With what song?
Summer Holiday.
Oh, look at that.
In March, bizarrely.
Classic.
But why he was #1 in March with Summer Holiday, I don't know, but he was.
He's booking early.
I don't know what else to say about him, really. I mean, he's just been around ever since I was here. So he's just a part of the sort of music industry furniture. I did think that whole tennis, when he went through that white tennis shorts kind of period, was a bit weird. Because
he went out with Sue Barker, allegedly, didn't he? Who is another British. This is a very UK-centric show so far. Don't worry, folks. We will spread our net a little bit wider. But yes, and he's famously, when it rained at Wimbledon, he got up and started singing Living Doll and getting the whole lot to clap along and stood up and got them all singing. And it was a really uncomfortable moment. And now every time it rains and he's at Wimbledon,
joke always comes back,
nobody looks him in the eye just in case he starts doing it again.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Avoid the man.
Anyway, I'm sure he's... but there's a couple of videos. There's an interesting video of him talking about his new career, new album, which is basically covers of old rock and roll songs going back to his roots. He recorded in Nashville. And there's I think it's the Telegraph. I was going to play it, but again, it's probably going to kill my my copyright standing. And where he's just talking about how he works and, you know, what he enjoys now. And the fact that when he goes into the studio, obviously at his age, if his voice isn't up to it in the day, he can go back. But when he's doing like a kind of 25-date tour, that's the thing he has to worry about now, because if he can't kind of come up with the goods, it's sort of rather, you know, it's quite a big deal. Whereas, you know, you can just go back the next time. Anyway, I can see this is obviously just generating an enormous amount of spin-off topics and discussion. So I think I should move on. I should move on to another. Oh, I suppose, yeah. I wonder, actually, well, let's do the ad, then we can get straight on with the other stuff. So, of course, if you're going to hang on till after this ad, then you'll find out who won the competition. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Anyway, of course, Iotope RX3 is imminent. We have, in fact, a half-hour special ready to go, perhaps tomorrow, in fact, which Matt Hines takes us through. But RX, if you're not familiar with it, is an amazing audio restoration and sort of sound design, spectral repair, spectral isolation software. It's astonishing, really. You can remove reverb and ambience with the new de-reverb technology, which is exclusive to RX3. RX3, faster workflow, tab-based documents, multiple undo. You can quickly reduce background noise for cleaner dialogue tracks with the real-time low CPU dialogue denoiser, offset, clip reduction, all kinds of stuff. You can fix lots and lots of audio problems. Tools are declip, declick, and you can patch up specific audio with RX3's unique spectral repair. It's available sometime in September, sometime could be tomorrow, or maybe a bit sooner. For more information, go to isotope.com/RX3, or if you just want to download a 10-day trial of RX2 now, isotope.com/RX, and do check it out. It really is quite a brilliant piece of software. In fact, I used it just the other day. But also, we have a winner. Last week, I was asking people their sort of worst recording studio nightmares, and I'm pleased to say that this week's winner is Lagrange Audio, who we often see in the chat room. I think he may be there. Is he there today? I can't see him there at the moment. Maybe he's not. But if he happens to be, or even if he happens to be not, he left the comment, worst studio experience. In 1998, studio booked for one day to record 4 tracks with time short. He prepares a whole bunch of MIDI tracks beforehand to save time, predominantly using a Korg Poly 800 as the controller into Logic or some DAW. He doesn't remember exactly which one it is. All is fine until he gets on site, loads the MIDI files, and they find when attempting playback on an Atari 1040, the computer struggles to keep time and tempo. He wastes 2 hours of precious and expensive studio time, only to discover that when the original MIDI tracks were recorded, they also captured hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands, of very small and orally undetectable pitch bend events as the result of a dirty pot on the Korg's joystick controller.
Oh my God.
Embarrassing. Words to the wise, inspect your MIDI files beforehand, and particularly those generated from vintage controllers. That sounds like an absolute nightmare. I've seen that. So Lagrange, you send me an email with your contact details, and the Isotope Fairy, who I can reveal is called Kim, will in fact bestow upon you Isotope RX2/RX3 when the upgrade comes up. I don't know if it would have fixed that problem, but it may somehow compensate you for the terrible time you had with that. Anyway, so once again, do check out RX. 10-day trial, as with all of Isotope software, isotope.com/RX. Or if you want to find out specifically about 3, just add a 3 onto the end of that URL. So congratulations, Lagrange. He's a regular in the chat room, but bizarrely, not this week. So on to topic number 2. I might have to fast forward this because this is probably going to be massively copyright issue. So this is Sculpture Percussion, Hans Zimmer. This is the work of Chas Smith. Worked on a number of soundtracks and has been absorbed by the Zimmer Corp.
A welder, amongst
and
other
he
things.
just created these incredible instruments made out of metal that are sort of a lot of them to do with bowing. If I fast forward to another instrument, there's one particular, some amazing, this is Workshop. I won't play it all because I will get busted, I'm sure. I think he's a sculptor, and this was the one that looked great. I think he's a sculptor, and actually what he ended up with, this thing called Lockheed. Just
to get the octave.
And this thing sounds really loud.
Sound, but it hits an emotional core in you.
So Hans Zimmer's used this stuff on the latest Superman movie, and there's a really good bit at the end as well where he's got this just a massive sheet of metal. Let's see if I can find. This thing.
How much work and how much.
This thing is. I don't know what this one's called.
But ingenuity goes into these instruments.
It's just an enormous copper box with all these resonators, and presumably those are all things to tune the notes.
Once I got these sounds, and I start to be able to manipulate those sounds and start writing tunes.
There's a cat trapped in that box, I think, somewhere.
She's mental.
That would certainly add to the atmosphere of the sound. Maybe for a film called Box of Cats.
One of the
I
things
should
we
do
can
a
do
whole
these
Bengal
days.
cat sound library. Shut up!
This is the one. This is the one I like the sound of. It's like a punk wobble board. Think of himself as the IDN Rolf Harris. Anyway, I won't play any more of that.
No, that's probably not the best thing to think of himself as.
Oh,
really.
no, I like that. I like that's a kind of benevolent sort of, but very well. I suppose Rolf Harris is scary nowadays, but let's not dwell on that.
Oh, no.
Amazing stuff. And apparently he's done. His instruments have featured on Saw 2, I believe. Stuff which you can imagine anything that requires really edgy and sort of hardcore sounds. But this is amazing. Very similar kind of a concept to what Diego Stocco has done with Hans Zimmer in the past, which create instruments that make very unique sounds. Because we're talking about someone who has access to probably every instrument and synthesizer known to man, yet he's kind of reaching for these really far out things. Interesting stuff. Dave Robinson, have you ever seen these kind of things in the flesh? I mean, they must be very impressive physically to see, you know, that this kind of large scale mechanical resonating instrument type thing.
I haven't, other than on some of the on the Weird Instruments series you did. There was that sort of organ, wasn't there? That pipe, the fire organ.
The fire organ, yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah, which I suppose it was using metal in some way like that. But I watched that. I watched that film. Oh, still there?
Yeah,
Yes.
I certainly am.
Yeah. I watched that clip, and you're right about the sheet, the punk wobble board. It's because he just starts wobbling. You go, yeah, it's just a sheet. But then the camera, the microphone that they're using to record it, it can't take it. It can't take the output.
As with quite a lot of those instruments, actually. I mean, they seem to be very, very loud. I guess it's the bowing, because once you reach a sort of resonant frequency on those things, they must really, really sort of output very, very powerful fundamentals and all the extra.
There is something extraordinary about. I'd really like to hear those on a decent playback. You know, I was just listening back over headphones, but to hear what that sounds like on through a stereo, through a hi-fi.
Rather through a mono Skype.
Yeah, exactly, than a headset.
11 kilohertz bandwidth.
Maybe through some tall speakers, maybe through some small speakers. But
I like where you're going.
Amazing. And I like that's the first time I've seen Hans Zimmer. That's not what I expected.
Do you know what did you expect?
I don't know. I think I just expected him to look a little bit more svelte, perhaps.
Jesus, you're talking about the man who does every single major.
Well,
soundtrack.
I know him and Thomas Newton Howard, doesn't it? Between them, they got the lot.
Yeah,
but
they meet up for dinner and go, "What film are you working on this week?"
Yeah.
Godfather 6.
But amazing stuff, and each sound, there is so much depth and so much to it.
Astonishing.
To synthesize something like that would be quite the project.
Yeah, well, I suppose you could sample it. Gaz, impressive stuff, no?
Oh, definitely. Although I did think they did sound very much like Omnisphere patches.
Well, that's the other man who's always in search of the new sound, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd love to have a go at them, actually. I think, you know, when you'd hear the sound and feel the sound as well, you know, as you play the thing, I think it would be, I think there'd be amazing things. I love it when people do things like this. So it really sort of exhibits great imagination, and in that feature, Hans is talking. It's not Hans, actually. The director, is it Schneider?
Zack Schneider.
And he's saying that by using organic elements, sort of helps to sort of
offset the CGI stuff. Yeah.
Offset, which I thought that was very interesting, and it did make me wonder if I would like to see a return to more filmmaking techniques using, you know, analog or, you know, real.
Want to see a set the size of Cleopatra with Ian Burton?
Yeah,
casts of thousands.
Yeah.
I'd
love it if they made an announcement that the new Star Wars movie wasn't going to feature any CGI. I think that would just...
It was just actually going to be filmed in space.
With real monsters. And, I think it, you know... So I thought that was a very interesting point. I haven't seen that film, but it'd be really interesting, having watched that video, just to listen out for those sounds.
I just want to. I want to see it now, definitely. But really, really fascinating little piece, that one, I thought. Yeah, no, good find. Mark, good grief, you're getting even dark. Mark the Dark Mark.
I got even dark. Well, I tried to close the door to stop the Bengal cat from interfering.
What are you going to do?
brilliant. I've really, really enjoyed watching this movie, and I thought it was really, really interesting, and I want to be that man. I always want to be these kind of guys that wander around with welders and grinders and sound making things. I probably ought to start doing it at some point. Maybe I should just cut up my remaining motorcycle collection and turn it into some kind of sound library. Who knows? But
that's an interesting idea. I mean, I'm surprised you haven't already. Weren't you going to make something? Was there something you were going to make? A giant. You were going to make at least one fire organ pipe. I thought it was, wasn't it? Something like that. I
started with the fire organ
or a Tesla
pipe.
coil.
Yeah, I didn't get very far with that. Tesla coil, yes, I want to make one of those. It's just I'm a procrastinator.
You need 2 though, don't you?
I need coaching. I need like somebody to come along and go, Mark, you may realise these wonderful things and the powerful human being that you are. And I'll go, yes, okay.
Yeah, but now you're in Glastonbury and you've just been given a poem by a man, bought a poem by a man who told you your life will change.
A poem, and
inside
my life will
there,
change. Yeah.
inside that poem, maybe it's a poem about making musical instruments out of metal.
That's not a bad idea, is it?
Just
the only thing is I sold my welder to move here.
Just feel the force. Feel the force, Mark.
I will feel the force. There's plenty of force on Glastonbury High Street. It's very interesting up there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's so many places that you can go with what he's doing, and I think as you kind of construct these instruments, you find yourself going off in more and more subtle nuances of direction. So certainly with circuit bending things, I found that once you've got your main ideas, then you spend a lot of time trying to improve on the sound of your main ideas. So I see that guy going in a direction where he's constantly trying to improve on the way those metal things resonate and make sounds. But what it really takes is for somebody to just go and start making sound in another direction, and maybe that's something I can do, where I can go off in a direction and start making sounds with something else. Bengal cats, maybe. She's quiet now, isn't she?
Yeah, well, Trilbix in the chat room says that he once hit the exterior of a commercial air conditioner with a sledgehammer. I didn't dent it and got a decent sound, but probably not much air conditioning after that, I'd imagine. But
I took East to a cafe after school this evening. We went to this... It was a place that celebrates tin miners from Cornwall for some bizarre reason, which is quite interesting with the Tinley thing.
I like it.
While we were sitting there eating our little cake and having a cup of coffee, a guy turned up with some stuff for the shop next door, and he opened the side door of a transit, and it made this kind of noise. And I went, wow, listen to that sound. And that's the point where I kind of wish my handheld recorder wasn't in the bottom of a box somewhere in the house, and I don't know which one.
Oh, the trials and tribulations of moving.
Yes.
While I've got everybody's attention, I want to draw the fact that now our streaming setup is actually working on an iPad, albeit with quite a considerable amount of latency, but I just wanted to point that out. I'll now turn that off, considering it's probably preventing something happening from the upstream. But anyway, just wanted to let them know. And we're a little bit further towards having everybody come in on a separate Skype machine. So fingers crossed, we might in the next couple of weeks might get that sorted, so everybody will be a bit more high fidelity.
And then if I get my light from you, you'll be able to see me.
That's right. Oh, there's Dave Robinson. But that's Mark. And if I get my switching right...
Mark in the Dark.
Mark in the Dark. The Park in the Dark, in fact, is a very good book for small children.
Is it?
Video 3. Here it comes.
Excellent.
Now, this one is another very interesting piece. This is, again, probably I'll have to talk over it just in case. This is Squarepusher, a piece written by Squarepusher. It's played by the amazing robot band called Z-Machines, or I'm guessing Z-Machines, because that probably sounds like what it was supposed to. It's the brainchild of... now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pronounce this. Yoshio Kawaguchi, an IT professor at the University of Tokyo, and mechanical designer Naofumi Yonetsuka. Oh, wow, I think I might have got that right. They wanted to liven up the music scene by creating something fun, futuristic and exciting. So they created a 6-armed drummer who can play 22 drums simultaneously, and a metal wire and a guitarist who uses 78 fingers and 12 plectrums, allowing him to challenge even the most gifted. I mean, if you listen to some of the stuff later on, it gets really almost impossible to play. So the idea of this was Squarepusher was saying that, aka Tom Jenkinson, that he wanted to prove that robots were capable of creating emotionally charged music or something, some other nonsense like that. I don't know. Amazing idea, but if you look at the actual band, they're not as moody as that video shows. I don't know, Gaz, what do you think? It's just, do you think there's any merit to this?
I didn't think that there was a lot of emotion in the music, to be honest. So I thought some of the music was good. I thought that it did have a kind of cold feel to it, though. So I did question his emotional, what he was claiming. I thought, I like Squarepusher. I think he's good, and he is he's a superb bass player, isn't he? It did remind me a little bit of the Pat Metheny Orchestrion thing from a couple of years back. And in fact, I thought musically had a similar sort of sound. I guess these things are not going to swing very much, are they, due to their kind of mechanical nature, I guess. I'm not sure about that.
I'm sure it can be programmed, though. That must be able to program in it. I mean, I can't imagine
I suppose so. But you could program swing, but I mean, the thing about the feel of the swing, that's the thing that maybe the emotional element which feels missing. I'm not sure. I'd like to have seen the video a bit more in a documentary style, to be honest, because I was intrigued by what was going on, but it was, the video was filmed in a, arty way, yeah.
Arty robots, but it's quite interesting because when you see the actual robots themselves, I have a video here, I believe. It's a very different. Oh no, that's not it. It's this one. It's a very different vibe. That's the guitarist, and it looks like it's going to be playing sort of death metal. Well, this is hilarious. So okay, there he goes. They started up, and they're playing really, really ghastly Japanese bubblegum pop with these. It's just really peculiar concept. Ready? Oh dear, I can't take much more of that. That's ghastly. Hello, Dave, you looked really intrigued by that. Is that something that perhaps you prefer that than?
Well, I think I missed an opportunity to see the Z-Machines, the Z-Machines. I think Riedel, the communications guys, they got them for their big anniversary party, and they're quite something to see, I'm told. But on that video, because of all the moody lighting, you couldn't really see much of the actual robots. It's all the close-ups of the fingers and the fretboards and that kind of stuff. But I wanted to see more of what the robots look like.
That's what they were. I just showed you. They were.
Well, yeah, I know, but in that, because it's maybe because it's Squarepusher and it has to have a certain sort of.
Yeah, I think showing a man with multicoloured highlighted dreads talking in a vocoder voice might not fit with the Squarepusher kind of mystique.
That'll do me, mate. Anyway, if it's good enough for Daft Punk, then and who are we? Who are we to say? But what I was going to say was, it does sound very Squarepusher to me, and I think he'd achieved something because there was an emotion there. And if you can call some of Squarepusher's drum and bassy exercises emotional, he's somebody who knows about dynamics and knows how to create a certain mood. So I think to a large extent he's agreed. I mean. The genre, when it gets all sort of free-form jazzy towards the end, it's not really my cup of tea at all. Thanks very much.
No, I did like what I found quite interesting was the idea that almost what you have, if you've got a plectrum on each string, and he has got two guitars, so 12 strings that all can be played individually. That's the thing that was really interesting. So effectively, you've got it's truly a 12-part multi-timbral instrument. Yeah. And some of that stuff was kind of really a bit mind-blowing, and that was quite interesting. But maybe it could be expressed in a more musically acceptable form by, I don't know.
But I mean, is that that whole video, I mean, was he commissioned to write for the Z-Machines then?
I'm guessing there's a lot of money behind it because is it Zimmer? Who?
Yes, he was once right. Okay,
some sort of.
So it's a commission.
I don't know. Yeah, I know. I can't, the answer is I don't know, but there is sponsorship behind the project of the band.
He's obviously spent some time on it and the complexities of it. So.
Yeah. In fact, they ran a competition recently. I think I've got it here somewhere. Yeah, they ran a competition recently, which was, you could submit your composition to be played by the robot band.
Oh wow!
Which is that's something that'd be quite interesting. I wonder what it's like arranging. I don't know, Mark. I'm guessing this might have been something. Oh, we've got a new hat. Have you got is that a Glastonbury wizard hat?
It's like looking into some dark cave, isn't it? It's just not. It's Wookiee hole.
You need a
It's
candle.
Which Wookiee hole?
A candle and a
need a
large
candle.
cheese in the background. Sorry, I put when I said Glastonbury
I don't
wizard.
need the cheese in the background. We've just been playing that on the video.
Well, that's very true.
I'm really surprised. I thought Gaz was going to say, I really like that, and that was really interesting, and that's my kind of style of music and my cup of tea, because I thought he was into all of that too many notes kind of super
Oh no!
playing.
No way!
It's got to be the right notes. It's got to be the right notes.
Spirit of Eden's my favourite album.
I'm really sorry. I got halfway through that video and I just thought I can't stand any more of this, and I switched it off.
Oh.
And that's not. I mean, I've got to be careful because I actually quite like some of the things Squarepusher does, but I don't like that. I don't like where he's gone with that. I think it had dynamics which made it have a human kind of element to it, in that things were going loud and quiet.
Yeah.
But there was no nuance or expressivity in anything that was played. I mean, I guess when somebody plays a real instrument and they put a finger on a string on a fretboard, the finger's never going to land in the same place, and the machines are always going to put the finger down on the same place. And if you like B.B. King, moves its fingers around, and that's where the expression is. It's in the vibrato, and without vibrato, it just sounded horribly mechanical to me. And then when it got into the too many notes part, I was just like, no. And Pat Metheny does do the same thing a million times better. I
suppose there is some nuance. Sorry, I was distracted there because the chat room is riffing on how you look. You're looking a bit like either Professor Snape or a Rembrandt, perhaps. So you look like, actually, because you're looking a little bit like, Mark, if I may say so, is an uncleaned Rembrandt. If you just turn to face the side slightly, so you can imagine, it's just like an unrestored 16th century masterpiece.
And they're quite a funny Squarepusher story. Quite a funny Squarepusher story that
do tell.
A very cool musician who me and Nick know, a guitarist, was doing like some sort of like live jam session in front of an audience, and he didn't really know a lot about Squarepusher. He just knew, he knew some of his music, but when it came to jam, Squarepusher just was doing this kind of his bass thing and just ended up doing just loads of slap bass soloing, and this guitarist was, he was appalled. He was absolutely appalled. He felt he was trapped on stage in this kind of jazz funk fusion nightmare.
That's got to be a show title: Trapped on Stage in a Jazz Funk Fusion Nightmare. Yeah, if it's not too long, I think I'll use that. Great story, guys. I know he can do all of that stuff, but he's also quite an accomplished finger bass player. He's got that kind of dare I say, sort of pastorius vibe. It's really kind of. But I'm guessing a lot of the shows that he plays, he kind of gets the bass out, and it's a very big spectacle. So he probably does that for the most impact, in terms of stadium DJ nonsense. But
I was in a recording studio in the '90s once, where with Pino Palladino, and the producer, he put on Squarepusher's first album. I think this was probably about '96 or something. And there's loads of bass, but it's loads of kind of cut up and sampled bass and all. I remember just Pino just being just like looking absolutely kind of dumbstruck by it, almost sort of as though, oh no, I'm, the game's up. Because because that stuff was amazing when I first heard it, because it was all like really bizarre, just going off in all directions, and just using the bass in quite a virtuoso sort of way, but messed up, really messed up in a kind of really cool.
Well, it's very percussive, I suppose, isn't it? That's the kind of.
Did you see those the films I sent you earlier in the week? I didn't. The 9-string bass player, and then Rich sent one back with a 10-string fretless bass player.
Yeah,
10-string fretless. Jesus, that has got to be hard. I can't.
But on the fretless bass, you've got so much expressivity. It takes it to completely the other end of the scale, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I'm probably being overly hard on him, and if he ever listens to this and he hears my comment, I'm only being overly hard on him because I don't like that style of music, and I probably switched it off because I don't like the style of music, and it's certainly not any reflection on his ability or
whether he's nice to kittens.
Well, yeah. Look at that. See, I've got a Squarepusher story as well. I've been to a party where he was one of the guests, and we were in the lounge, and there was a piano, and the guy who was hosting the party was got his guitar out, and Squarepusher got a bass, and I think they'd been playing along with the DJ, and it was kind of 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever. But I thought this is an opportunity to play with Tom Jenkinson with Squarepusher, and when the opportunity of having a bit of a jam sort of came along, he put the guitar away and went off and had some sandwiches and went home.
He saw you coming.
Did he get everyone to sing "Living Doll" by now?
So I was very disappointed, I have to say. But he's not a party man.
Maybe you were saved, but from just him playing a massively inappropriate slap bass solo over your vamping.
Yes, maybe. But he's a very sort of introspective and quite a sort of he's not the party guy, I think he'd rather stay at home and compose for 12-fingered Japanese robots than...
Yeah, maybe you're right. Well, him and Aphex Twin are very much the same sort of mould, aren't they, I suppose, in many ways. But although I'm sure they probably both look at each other going, "You what? Are you mad? We're completely different."
One of them's from Ireland and the other one's from Chelmsford, so I think they probably wouldn't necessarily...
Ireland is from Cornwall.
I thought one of them was from Ireland.
Richard James is from Cornwall.
Oh, is he? Isn't he not Irish?
No.
Richard, no, it's Richard.
You're always
James.
correcting me, Dave. I come in with this rash comment.
So much.
Set me straight.
There's so much that needs to be corrected.
There's only, but interestingly, and actually, just I wanted to add, I might play this next week. Actually, just as an aside, we talked about the Buchla system last week, and about not hearing anything that of any had much value musically apart from blip blop and stuff. And I was corrected quite forcefully by a number of people in the comments of last week's podcast, and one of them led me to sort of roundabout way to find the music of Alessandro Cortini and a band called Sonoio. If you get the chance to check some of that stuff out, there's a little search for Alessandro Cortini Enough. It's a track called Enough, and it sounds like he's used very creatively, but it's really, really good. Actually, I'm kind of chase him down and buy the album because I downloaded a free sample of some other stuff off Sonoio Red, and I think that uses. It sounds like a lot of the sounds are made by Modular, but really intelligently musical. Absolutely awesome. So I'd stand corrected. So brilliant. What's that? What we got next?
I'm going to have to leave.
You got to go
soon.
You got to go. All right. Well, do you want to choose then, or just say if there is one that you want? What we got? Wireless MIDI, live pop duo, gel speaker.
Oh yeah, actually, I wanted to just talk about the gel speaker.
Did you? Yeah. I've just realised I haven't prepared anything for that one. But I will try. No, it's all right. I'm going to get it. Here we go. Here it is. I've got it. Don't worry. This is the gel speaker, don't you know? If I press that button. This is a transparent loudspeaker from Harvard School of Economics Research. Let me see if I can make that. I can make that a bit... Oh, no, I don't want to do it like that. Should be able to make that a bit bigger. There we go. That's considerably bigger. Basically, it looks a bit like a jellyfish. And it's but it will. You probably can't pick this up. They're just ramping up the frequency, and then they play some music through it, and it's surprisingly fully featured. Let me see if I can find the part of the video. This is a couple of research students at Harvard. Here we go. This is playing Peer Gynt through a really crappy speaker, mic, computer speakers, and mic. Yeah, that's a terrible example, isn't it? But so it's gone through rubbish computer speakers into a rubbish video mic through Skype and then compress. But you can. I mean, first generation listen, it does look like it could be quite interesting. So, Dave, you chose speaker.
Well, the reason I mention this because I don't think it. I think it looks like a load of old nonsense. I mean, it's just such a bad. I mean, we're not talking about presentation or how you present yourself, but if you look at that video, you think, what am I actually looking at here? You see them ramping up the frequencies, and then they put the video, they put the gel on the computer screen, and it's kind of like, so what? I mean, they don't hold it physically, they don't show it to you. So in terms of, you've got the news story, but it's just a shame that they wasted the opportunity with the video to not show off what you're actually supposed to be looking at. So I don't know whether it works. Or whether it really is a project worth pursuing from the way they've demonstrated it.
Oh dear,
which is a shame.
Yeah.
But what it did remind me of, Nick, was something by a company called Watt. That's W-A-T, and that's Warwick Audio Technologies. And if you look them up, Warwick Audio Technologies, they create something called FFL, and it's foil something, and they're looking at new ways of creating membranes that can be used as speakers. And it kind of reminded me of that. Now the Watt stuff was a spin out of Warwick University, in the same way as, there we go, yeah. So new generation of loudspeakers. I don't know if you've encountered this before. But this is a project that spun out of Warwick University about 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh yeah, I see. Look, there's stuff.
Yeah, and then they've spun out and they've got funding and created their own company out of it, and it looks just like a piece of foil, a piece of Baco foil. It's very strange, but they've received several rounds of funding, and the thing's really a goer. So the gel, which would seem to be a nice idea, they should be looking at maybe what those guys are doing.
Yeah, well, maybe so. Presentation.
Yeah. But there's also something called Phionics as well. Now, again, that's F-E-O-N-I-C, and this is a sort of a device, a technology which being used quite a lot in shops and in displays, where it's a sort of a vibrator that's put on the glass, and it turns the whole of a shop window into a loudspeaker. So what they're able to do is to put the technology and the vibrator, or whatever you want to call it, on the inside, and the speaker, the window vibrates, but the sound is transmitted outside. So there we go, yeah. So they've done a few of these, and there's been a few product launches in shop windows where they've had an artist singing, but the sound is heard outside because they're using these Phionic speakers.
I can't get over how many people stop outside. There's a peel and stick. It's really that simple. There's an awful lot of gags in there, isn't there?
So you have no idea where the sound is coming from. Yeah, it's there's a lot of these kind of interesting technologies out there, and it's interesting to see what these Harvard guys are doing to create something very unusual and something that you wouldn't think could propagate sound. It's just they need to present it a little bit better.
They do.
That was not convincing at all.
It was a little bit. I was expecting with the intro. I was expecting something a little bit more kind of produced, but kind of cool stuff. I know, Gaz, you're interested in mobile speakers, certainly from an iPad point of view, and that's interesting ideas. But what do you think? Any value?
I mean, yeah, as Dave said, it's such a dreadful video. It wouldn't even do him. And the sound, they could have at least made it, some quiet room or something, or some decent. You
do think that if they're dedicated, if they're dedicated to sound, they might have a care to actually make sound. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's actually very difficult to assess the value of that particular thing. I mean, it's certainly quite an interesting thing. I've always been quite interested in the idea of inflatable speakers, where, especially from a gigging point of view, you can just pump up your speaker cabs. So this kind of idea of really, I mean, that would be a completely flat speaker. Well, do you remember What were they called? Wharfdale were doing some sort of flat speakers, didn't they?
NXT speakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, you often see them at trade shows. You know, these little tiny discrete speakers that you can't really see, but they're usually accompanied by some massive subwoofer to kind of give it some mass.
Yeah, because there's no low end with those NXT speakers.
Yeah.
They were going to be a huge technology about 15 years ago, but and pictures that installing them in the back of pictures, you stick the I don't want to call it the vibrator, but I want to call it something else.
Go on, call it the vibrator.
The vibrator, but the resonator. There we go, the resonator, and you put it in the back of a picture. Yeah. But I thought they were going to be a huge thing, and they pop up at trade shows every so often. But it's because I don't think they've got any real sort of they've got no real low end to them. So
they won't do.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly say hello to Rich Hilton, who's actually in the chat room on the tour bus in Holland over 3G on his mobile phone, racking up the 3G data allowance, no doubt. Anyway, just thought I'd say hello there. He can't hear, but he can join the chat room, so that's, I suppose, something marvellous. Mark, any interest in this sort of technology?
Well, my comments are going to be roughly the same as everyone else's. It's easy to diss this kind of technology and go, that's never going to work. But then in 10 years' time, everyone will have them and we'll all be going, that's amazing. Where did that come from? Well, this is where it comes from, right? So people are researching this kind of stuff. But the presentation, there's no sense at all of how loud the thing is. It could be blisteringly loud at 100 decibels, or it could be whisper quiet. You've got no idea of the gain structure of the microphone they've got on it. I mean, maybe a little bit because there's some background noise which is being picked up, which seems to be almost as loud as the music. But why didn't they just stick a dB meter in front of it and go, look, we're able to generate this level of noise with this piece of clear stuff? And then, it's just
frustrating, isn't it?
Really, it just means nothing, that video. Absolutely means nothing.
Their line manager really needs to be
possible.
Their lecturer or whoever it is in charge of the department needs to
They need a good telling off.
Send them an isotope analyzer. And
there you go.
And even a Behringer like ECM 8000 mic or whatever they're called, and let's have a dB rating and let's see what the frequency response of it is, or something that means something to people that know things about sound.
Yeah, I agree. So therein lies a tale. If you're going to post boffin type videos, you need either to just go kind of something that completely wows us, or completely explains itself.
Yeah.
Anyway,
do it.
Well, Dave, I don't know whether you're what your movements are, whether you're available to stick around, or whether or not you have to go. But actually, we might have to leave this because it's 5:15 and I've got to go home and cook the tea. And I'm on my bike this week. I'm on a health drive, trying to lose some of this holiday weight, unsuccessfully, I might add. So quickly, I will say, Dave Robinson, Pro Sound News Europe. Thank you very much for joining us this week, Dave.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, I'm trying to do a few more of these now that I'm sort of managing my time a little bit better.
Ah, okay. Well, I would obviously love to have you, so thank you very much. Anyway.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
And we'll say also thanks to Gaz William up there in Wales. Give our regards to your father. I met him at your wedding, lovely fellow. And have a good time at the festival.
Yes, so yeah, looking forward to that. One thing I was going to mention, just a little heads up in case you've not noticed that, there's a really interesting
I've just had a terrible
app just about to drop in a few days' time called Modular. And I think this one looks like a really cool thing. I think we should cover it on Sonic Touch, but it just is great because it makes total sense. It's just like you drag and drop it looks like it's in the what you call the format, the one the dope for use.
Eurorack.
Eurorack, of course. It looks like a Eurorack, and you drag modules from the left-hand side in.
All right, the
right-hand side.
We'll check that out.
And
well, definitely.
It looks terrific. So yeah, I thought I'd just mention that because
thank you very much.
Really cool.
Okay, well, Gaz Williams there. Thank you very much. I would put your lower third up, but since it's changed, you seem to be you're behind. So anyway, we'll say goodbye to Mr. Mark Tinley as well over there in Glastonbury. Thank you very much for joining us. I will try and get you your light sorted out. Oh, yours is in front. You must be special
So
this
I'm
week.
going to do an incredibly clever link there, and if you're going to get that iApp, you can run it on your new iPhone 5C, which if you buy in America seems to be $99, but if you buy it here, it's 429 quid or something. What's that all about?
Yes, but
you have to get it with a contract in America.
Yeah,
like a 2-year contract.
It says, oh, it only costs this much, but actually only costs this much as long as you sign a 24-month contract, or probably
so
36
what
months now.
Doing on the tour bus with no data left, right?
I think he's probably got a plan, or at least he did last time I spoke to him. You can get decent plans now. They've opened it up a little bit more, but yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Mark. Thank you, everybody. That was Sonic Talk number 329, not 328, as it says there. And once again, we thank Iotope for their sponsorship of the show. Go find out about RX, iotope.com/RX or RX3, which is about to drop anytime soon. And I think we will have an RX video good to go tomorrow, I hope. So anyway, that's it. It's a king sunnier day, as Heathcliff said in the chat room. That's Sonic Talk 329. Thanks for watching.